UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, and sitting next to me is my business partner, co-director, co-producer of all of our films, including On the Trail. Gil and I have been together a number of years, and we'll be talking about our 10-part UFO series and some of the highlights of that. So you're going to want to stick around for that. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Are you worried about the future of the U.S. economy? With so much uncertainty in the air, it's natural to fret about the security of your retirement savings. But there's one asset that stands the test of time. Folks, that's gold. For centuries, gold has been a hedge against market volatility and economic instability. With the Gold IRA from Noble Gold Investments, you can harness the power of precious metals to help protect your financial future. Folks, we did this a couple of years ago. I got to tell you, there's always a risk of investment and there's no guarantee of any kind, but so far we've made out really well. By rolling over your existing IRA or 401k into a self-directed gold IRA, you can enjoy the potential for long-term growth and stability. Diversify your portfolio with a tangible asset that has real value. Setting up your gold IRA has never been easier with Noble Gold Investments' streamlined process and expert guidance. This election year, don't let election volatility and uncertainty keep you up at night. Folks, vote for the timeless safety of gold and silver in 2024. Noble Gold Investments will give you up to 10 1-ounce silver Trump coins or a 10-ounce silver American flag bar if you open a qualified account. Folks, go to noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Remember, there's always a risk of investment and there's no guarantee of any kind, but I did it, my wife and I did it, and we are absolutely glad we did. Once again, noblegoldinvestments.com. Gil, thanks so much for joining us. Gil and I spent a lot of time in the studio here, but also out in the field. So out of the 10 films that we've done, 6 of those we did together last year, which is a lot of work when you think about it.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it really was. So the bottom line is, my first question to you is, out of all the places we've been together and all the films that we've accomplished, what sticks in your mind? What just kind of jumps above everything?
Well, there's probably 2 highlights, I think. First and foremost is the debris field and what we discovered out there, and specifically the God's favor was shown to us, which was an incredible moment.
Tell us about that.
Well, we were out there. It was out in the middle of nowhere. Anyone who's been there, I doubt many people have, because it's way, way, way out in the middle of nowhere.
It's really remote. I mean, really remote.
You wouldn't be able to get there unless someone took you who had been there.
Which is what happened to us. Someone took us. We had a guide.
And it very hot day, sunny, cloudless sky at first and whatnot. And we got going. We had a few mishaps that, who knows who created those mishaps. Our batteries were drained twice on some of our equipment, the camera and the mics. But right afterward, our partner Jim Peterson, our sound and camera guy, who was there, and LA and myself, we got together and we prayed for the Lord's favor. And, literally moments later, clouds began to form over us, and we had this sort of safety, the cloud by day.
It was unbelievable. It really was. It's sunny everywhere, all around us, except where we are. And our guide, Frank Himmler, goes, I've been out here like 20 times and I've never seen the weather like this. I mean, he was freaked out. So it was pretty cool.
So it made it for a much more comfortable shoot, first of all. And probably 10 minutes after that, Frank was out there with his metal detector and it goes off.
Right.
And we have this all, if you haven't seen the episode, you ought to look at it because we have it all on camera.
Yeah.
First time in like 10, 12 years.
Yeah, that's what he said, yeah.
And we not only find one piece, we find 2 while we're out there. It was an incredible moment because, like you, LA, I've believed in UFOs. I read all the books when I was growing before I was a Christian. Became a Christian in '86, and I began to be led by the Lord towards this thought even before I listened to you, that these things, these beings, these crafts, I didn't buy that they were coming from outer space. No matter, even though I watched all the Spielberg movies and listened to all the propaganda about it, I really believed that we were being deceived by fallen angels and some sort of superior technology. And so I knew all about this. But just being there in the place, getting that piece of debris and realizing, it isn't all stories. This happened. The people who were there, Jesse Marcel, Sr. and Jr., these were real, life, flesh and blood people who saw something that was extraordinary. They weren't allowed to talk about it for decades.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we decided to dedicate the two films, the two Roswell films, to not only this Jesse Marcel Sr., but his son, who carried the banner for his father, trying to redeem his name, as if his name really needed to be redeemed in the end.
And that's why we call the film Exoneration, because it exonerates the Marcel name. At least we hope it exonerates the Marcel name, because it wasn't a weather balloon, folks. And if you've not seen the films, you can stream them. Do your homework. $4.99. You can stream them, streaming.lamarzulli.net. But the darkest film, and when we were in here with the cattle mutilation film, I mean, remember, I a couple of times, that's it. I can't do it. And I would get up and just walk out and leave you in the edit booth.
It was crazy. That was the other one I was going to mention because, a lot of people, you hear the stories and you kind of tangentially are aware of them. And, whether you think about it deeply or not, you can kind of brush them off. But we were confronted with image after image of these poor animals and the things that had been done
Very
to them.
disturbing.
And it's really hard to not, you get angry we're both animal lovers, and you get really angry about it. And then we went out and we talked to a rancher who had, Tom had I forget how many of these.
It was 16?
Yeah, something like
16 cows in 20 years.
And that equates for a rancher to tens of thousands of dollars over the lifetime of that cow with their progeny and et cetera, et cetera. So it was very, very dark, and it angers you in the same way our abduction one was, where you hear these just gut-wrenching testimonies from the participants in that movie, especially Karen.
Yeah, Karen. We published her book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, but Karen it's visceral.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Very emotional.
And as a parent, it really, to think that this happened to little children and their lives were turned upside down, and they still carry this burden when they become older people. It just really, the righteousness of the Lord really swells up inside, and you want to do something about it. And that's probably explains why we had the energy as two not exactly young guys to do 6 films, which really is an extraordinary feat.
And then, of course, in 9 and 10, what is the truth? And it's on both sides of the aisle. Where do you think all this is going? Where do you think the UFO phenomena? What's the end game, in your opinion?
Well, if you assume, as we do, that this is nefarious, these are evil entities, and it's part of the god of this world, Lucifer, Satan's plan for the end times, let's say, and even if you don't believe that that's exactly the case, it's for nefarious reasons. It's to, once again, propagate a lie, in this case, probably since the majority of people, especially who aren't believers, believe that these are our space brothers. Some believe that we're the progeny. They're our progenitors from some time
Our
past.
Creators, right.
Our creators. Obviously, as believers, we know that is a blatant lie. And so at the very least, it's a deception to pull us all away from worshiping God and realizing He, the Lord Almighty, Jesus' Father, is the God of the universe, God of all creation, and this little lesser God who's angry at human beings because He wasn't as great as He was, as the Bible tells us. He was not created in the image of God. We were created.
Yeah, which is a startling revelation, actually.
Yeah. So I agree wholeheartedly with your thesis that this is a great deception, and it likely is going to be used at the end time, to try to draw whoever isn't a true believer away from ever believing in God Almighty, and then more than likely that's when the end comes.
It's things are heating up. We're one of the reasons why you came down. We had a series of interviews in the last 24 hours on our next film, and it's amazing how the Lord has redirected our steps. So this is sort of a candid behind the scenes reveal of what's going on. We were set to go across the pond to an undisclosed location. We'll just keep it like that. And I was at we were at the Prophecy Watchers Conference, and we were filming on the Holy Fire. And this is our next film. But while we were filming the Holy Fire, I went to sleep that night. Lord gets me up around 2 a.m. and basically goes, I didn't tell you to go there. I didn't tell you to go across the pond and film at this undisclosed location. And it was like, whoa. And so I came down the next morning and I said, guys, I don't think we're supposed to go to this undisclosed location. And your reaction was?
I had felt a lot of trepidation. I didn't necessarily think it was the Lord that was doing that, but obviously it was, because he was doing the same thing to you. It just felt like we were doing that. That's like would be a new chapter for us. It didn't fit into our current sort of direction of our projects, and I was relieved as much as you were.
Yeah, I was like a weight lifted off.
Yeah, because that was coming up very quickly, and we really need to do a lot of pre-production for it. And the moment that happened, and we should also mention the Holy Fire and why we're doing it.
Yeah, that was my next question. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, independently, LA and myself and our sound guy Jim all were introduced by the Lord to this idea of what the Holy Fire is that us in the West have not heard of at all. If I've been a Christian since 1986 and never heard of it.
Right. Likewise, 44 years, 1980, never heard of the Holy Fire.
And just independently, the Lord made us all aware of it. And then I think you got a call from
Bob Ulrich.
Yeah. And that kind of redirected our path right at the time where, well, it was right before we decided not to go to that undisclosed location. So, but the shoot yesterday was amazing.
Yeah, it was really amazing.
Yeah, and maybe we can show some clips at some point in the future.
Yeah, we will. We'll be teasing you with it. This is on the fast track to get released. We're correlating the so-called Holy Fire, which happens every single year in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. There are eyewitness accounts from 1,700 years ago. So people immediately go, well, why not 2,000 years ago? Because you have to remember that there are documents that talk about it, but the Romans came in and destroyed Jerusalem in AD 70. And then after the Bar Kokhba revolution, no Jew was allowed there. And the Christians had all moved out of that place. The Romans came in, built temples over what is now the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And it remained that way until Constantine declared Christianity the state religion, and Helena came in. We had a remote film crew yesterday in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Wait till you see the footage. I truly believe it is the burial place. It's where Golgotha was. The split rocks are there. The place where they put the crosses. I mean, it's unbelievable. So before you start shaking your head, do a little bit of research on that, because I was skeptical too. But my skepticism has been put aside from what we've discovered in the books I've read and the people that we've interviewed. So we have our last interview coming up. We'll be flying to Reno next week and doing our last interview. And then we're in the edit booth and post-production, and this will be out probably in the fall sometime.
Yeah, very exciting project. Yeah.
Very exciting. And we're tying the Holy Fire in with how the image was created on the Shroud of Turin. So lots to think about, folks. We've got 30 films and 14 books. LAMarzulli.com, LAMarzulli.com. Time to do your homework. Gil was talking about the debris field. For $4.99, you can rent that film. It's incredible because, as Frank Kimball says, for the first time in like 12 years, we're showing the wreckage coming out of the ground. And this piece of metal had been buried a long time, and it has been tested, and that's all I'll say about that. But Gil, thanks so much for coming on the record. We are on the trail, folks. We are creating films all from a Christian viewpoint. So glory to the King. I'll give you the last word.
Amen. Well, it's just a pleasure to be your partner.
Likewise.
Maybe in the future we'll tell you some of that story. But it's just fantastic to be a filmmaker working for the Lord. There's not many of us.
Yeah, amen. All right, folks, UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. Thanks so much for watching.
Officials endeavoring to obtain all top flying saucers.
Marcel's own words, it was something that he'd never seen before, something from another world. In our opinion, Marcel was a patsy.
Just verbal directions that we know what about it.
That his father was telling the truth.
He dead in the eye and he said, "It really happened." And he held his hand up just like this. They had 6 fingers, not 5.
He said they looked quite a bit like us.
Do you think your grandfather was a patsy?
100%.
The cover-up by the U.S. military.
Do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
I can't discuss in public setting.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots?
Biologics came to some of these recoveries.
He deliberately obfuscated and they lied to the American people.
When the Pentagon decided to lie about what happened at Roswell.
Because standing 6 feet away, this little being about 3.5 foot tall.
She said the nurses who were there during the crash, they're now at a convent.
The first book that Randall wrote, and he said to Jess, he said, "That's not fiction."
But for everybody, I mean, this is a human thing. It's a worldwide changing, be life-changing for everybody.
It was certainly not a weather balloon and not something from this earth.